They cut the waitress's hours to 3 a week. The Mafia boss booked all 50 tables. The schedule sheet smells like stale beer and bleach. My name, Lila Moreno, is printed neatly, but a thick black line runs through every shift except one. Tuesday, lunch, 3 hours. I am 23 years old, and this is how I am being erased. Garen Pike, the manager of the Azure Key, polishes a wine glass, his reflection sneering in the polished surface. He avoids my eyes. He knows what he's doing. This is Port Lorena's high-end seafood, the place where finance sharks close deals. And he's pushing me out. He gives me the dead shift, the one where tips are non-existent, to force me to quit. I clutch the thin fabric of my apron. I cannot quit. The kitchen, usually a chaotic symphony of sizzling pans and clattering plates, goes quiet. It is a different kind of buzz, a rumor passing from the prep cooks to the dishwashers. Dario Vescari. The name hangs in the air, thick as the humidity rolling in off the harbor. The hostess stand phone rings, a shrill, demanding sound. The young hostess, new and trembling, answers it, her eyes widen. Yes, sir. Right away, sir. She hangs up and turns to Garen, her voice a squeak. All of them. He booked all of them. Garen stops polishing. What are you talking about? 50 tables, all 50, booked for 8 o'clock, under the name Vescari Maritime Holdings. The kitchen doors swing open. The head chef stands there, wiping his hands on his apron. Vescari. Tonight. Garen's composure cracks. This is not in his plan. Dario Vescari doesn't just own logistics chains and the dark, quiet bars that line the wharf. He owns the water, the shadows, the men who work the docks. He doesn't just eat dinner, he makes statements. Garen quickly smooths his tie. A mask of oily, professional welcome slides over his face. Excellent, prepare the kitchen, full staff. He looks at me. A flicker of annoyance. Moreno, you stay. You can bus tables. Don't get in the way. He ducks into his small glass office, snatching the phone. He thinks the music covers his voice. It does not. I watch him dial, his back to the dining room. He hunches over, his voice low and sharp. Nico, he hisses into the receiver. The prey has appeared. He's here tonight. A cold knot forms in my stomach. Nico Adelanti. Even I know that name. A rival, a snake. At 8 o'clock, the rain begins. It is not a gentle rain, but a hard, coastal assault, slashing against the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows. The front doors open, not with the usual dinner hour chime, but with a sudden, heavy hush that silences the room. He's not what I expected. There are no flashy rings, no silk suit. He wears dark, impeccably tailored wool, a businessman dressed for a merger, but it is the way he moves, a fluid, predatory grace. 2 men, built like stone columns in the same dark suits, flank him. They do not scan the room, they assess it, weighing exits and threats. Garen rushes forward, hand outstretched, smile wide and false. Mr. Vescari, welcome to the Azure Key in honor. Dario Vescari ignores the hand. His gaze sweeps the room, past the opulent bar, past the fawning manager. His eyes land on the long bank of windows overlooking the dark, churning harbor. The neon sign of the bait shop opposite bleeds red and blue onto the wet, reflective water. We will take that section, he says. His voice is not loud, but it commands the space, all of it. Garen stammers, of course. Sir, right this way. As Vescari moves, his eyes find me. I am standing by the service station, holding a stack of polished glasses, trying to blend into the woodwork. He stops. He looks at me. A long, unblinking assessment. Then he looks at Garen. And she will be our server. Only her. The blood drains from my face. Garen blanches. Sir, Miss Moreno she's not assigned to this section. We have our senior staff. She is now. It is not a request. Garen's smile tightens into a grimace. He nods at me, a sharp, angry jerk of his head. Do exactly as he says. My hands are shaking. I cannot afford this. I cannot afford the letter in my pocket, the one from the Benevolent Veterans Relief Trust. The sharp corners dig into my hip. Tia Rosalinda's heart medication. The fund is reviewing her case, a polite word for denied. I need this job. I need the pittance from 3 hours on a Tuesday. I grab my notepad and walk toward the Tide. I try to stay professional. I take their water orders. They speak in low Italian, but his English is perfect, unaccented. He doesn't look at the menu. He orders for the table, complex dishes, expensive wines, all without glancing at the prices. The rest of the restaurant is empty, all 50 tables, booked and barren, save for this one cluster of dark suits by the storm-lashed window. I am bringing the first round of appetizers when the men at table 12 arrive. They are not with Vescari. They are finance bros, loud, entitled, and already drunk. Having slipped in just before the main booking, Garin, seeing them, must have decided to seat them far from the Vescari tables. They see me. They see a lone waitress in an empty room. "Hey, sweet thing," one of them calls out, his voice slurring. "Forget them. Bring that tray over here." I stop. "I'm sorry, sir, this is for—" I said, "Over here." I look to Garin, who is watching from the bar. He sees the situation. He sees the aggressive posture of the men. He turns his back and starts polishing another glass. He's leaving me to them. I take a deep breath and walk toward their table. "Can I get you gentlemen anything?" One of them, the loudest, reaches out and grabs my wrist. His grip is tight, his skin damp. "Yeah. Spill something on me. I want to see if you'll clean it up." I try to pull away, my voice tight. "Sir, please let go of my arm." The laughter from his friends is sharp. A silence falls. It is heavier than the storm. Not just at table 12, the entire Vescari section has gone still. Dario Vescari hasn't moved. He is still seated, mid-conversation with one of his men, but he lifts his eyes, just lifts them. He doesn't look at me. He looks at the pale, thick hand wrapped around my wrist. His gaze is cold. It is assessing. It is final. The finance bro freezes. The color drains from his face, leaving it a sickly, mottled white. The laughter dies in his throat. He lets go of my wrist as if it has burned him. "Sorry," he mumbles, shrinking back into his seat. We were just kidding." His friends are already reaching for their wallets. They throw a pile of cash on the table, far more than their drinks cost, and scramble from their chairs. They do not walk to the exit. They run. I stand there, rubbing my wrist, my heart hammering against my ribs. Dario Vescari motions me over. His table is quiet. The rain lashes the glass. "Garin," he calls out. His voice is soft again, but Garin jumps, scurrying over, the fake smile plastered back on. "Yes, mister. Vescari, is everything all right?" My associates and I are booking the entire restaurant for the rest of the night. Garin blinks, confused. "Sir, you already have all 50 tables." "I know, but we are paying for them now, all of them, and we are ordering from all of them." Dario slides a heavy, black credit card across the polished wood, run the minimum charge for every table, and the standard 20% gratuity. Garin's eyes widen. He understands the math. He understands the implication. Dario Vescari looks at me. His eyes are dark, the color of the harbor at midnight. "And Miss Moreno will be the sole server. She will receive the entirety of the gratuity for all 50 tables. Is that clear?" I stop breathing. "Sir, that is highly irregular," Garin sputters. "It is." Vescari looks back at him. "And a condition. No one else touches her shift. No one else helps her. No one speaks to her. She works for me tonight. Run the card." This is not protection. This is a spotlight. This is a cage painted gold. I am confused, terrified, and acutely aware of the money. Enough money to cover Tia's medicine for months. Garin snatches the card. He is shaking. Not with fear. With a deep, blistering rage. His face is pale. His lips a thin, white line. He marches to the register, his knuckles white as he processes the transaction. He retreats to the far end of the bar, a man in a drenched flat cap, who's been nursing a single beer for the past hour, gets up and walks toward the restrooms. Garen meets him by the hallway. I see it, a quick, slick handoff, a small, dark object, a USB drive. It glints for a second under the bar lights. Garen's whisper is venom, lost to the storm for everyone but the man in the cap. Tonight, the MCA needs the proof. Get it to them. I turn back to Dario Vescari's table, my tray trembling. The atmosphere in the room is suffocating. The smell of the old, damp wood of the tables mingles with the metallic scent of the rain. The green glow of the exit sign by the kitchen seems to pulse, a sickly beacon. I can hear the tide crashing against the pylons beneath the restaurant. It does not sound like the ocean. It sounds like a warning. Dario is watching the harbor, the neon light catching the sharp, patrician angle of his jaw. He looks at me as I approach, refilling his water. He doesn't smile. He just waits. He leans forward, just slightly. His voice is a low rumble, meant only for me, but it cuts through the sound of the rain and the distant foghorns. From now on, he says, his gaze holding mine, heavy and absolute. Anyone who makes you cry, they will apologize to the sea. The cash is a heavy, foreign object in my apron pocket. It does not feel like relief. It feels like a transaction I do not understand. I count it under the flickering fluorescent light of my kitchen in Riverview Terrace, the bills smelling faintly of expensive wine and grilled octopus. It is enough for Tia Rosalinda's medicine for months. In the living room, which is also her bedroom, she is asleep in the recliner. The television is on, muted, casting blue shadows across her face. Her breathing is a shallow, fragile thing. I watch her for a long moment, the anger at my situation warring with the sharp, cold relief the money provides. I cannot let her down. I go to the kitchen and boil water. I have learned, through trial and error, the exact combination of herbs that helps ease the pressure in her chest when the medication makes her nauseous. Chamomile, a pinch of dried ginger, and 2 lavender buds. I measure them out, my hands steady. This is my life. Not the drama of the Azure Key, this small, clean apartment, the scent of herbal tea, and the constant thrumming anxiety of the next medical bill. On my small desk, tucked between a stack of overdue utility notices and Tia's prescription slips, is my real self, a worn, leather-bound sketchbook and my old Minolta X700. The sketchbook is not for drawing, it is for shadow. It is filled with notes on light, exposure times, the way the fog on the harbor softens the edges of the cargo cranes. My dream is to be a photographer. I walk the docks at dawn, capturing the faces of the laborers, the grit under their nails, the exhaustion in their eyes. I post the photos on an anonymous Instagram account, K-Shadow. It is the only place I exist as myself. The next afternoon, the hallway of our building smells like a hothouse. A massive, ostentatious spray of white lilies is blocking my doorway. They are suffocatingly fragrant, offensively expensive. There is no card. There does not need to be. My first coherent thought is rage. I drag the heavy glass vase inside, and it instantly makes our small apartment feel cramped, invaded. This is a mark of ownership. Dario Vescari has crossed a line, found my home, scented it with his money. Tia Rosalinda wakes up and claps her hands, delighted. Lila, how lovely are they from the restaurant? I force a smile. Yes, Tia, from a generous customer. I hate that I cannot throw them out. I hate that, underneath the anger, a small, treacherous part of me remembers the way he looked at those men, the way their entitlement evaporated under his cold gaze. He had saved me from a humiliation Garen had invited. The lilies are a cage, but they are also a shield. The reprieve does not last. The mail arrives. A stark white envelope from the Benevolent Veterans Relief Trust. It is not a review. It is a final notice of debt. They have paid for her last procedure, but a clerical error means they are reclaiming the funds immediately. The panic is cold and sharp. I run to the Azure Key. It is mid-afternoon, the dead time before dinner service. Garen is at the bar, polishing his precious glasses. Garen, please. I need more hours. I will take anything. I will do the inventory. I will scrub the freezers. He sets a glass down. He turns, and his smile is thin, reptilian. You have your shift, Moreno. 3 hours, Tuesday. That is not enough. You know I cannot live on that. Maybe you should just quit, he says, his voice low. It would be cleaner. You are clearly not management material, and your special customer might not always be there to buy out the restaurant. The threat is clear. I am fired, but he is making me do it to myself. I'm at the bus stop at 5 o'clock the next morning, the sky a bruised, chemical purple. The air smells of salt and diesel. I am going to the docks, not to work, but to lose myself in the fog, to take pictures until my hands are numb. A black sedan, silent as a shark, glides to the curb. The tinted rear window lowers. It is Dario Vescari. He looks as immaculate as he did in the restaurant, wearing a dark wool coat, his tie perfectly knotted. You drop this, he says. He holds out his hand. Resting on his palm is my hair clip, a cheap, plastic tortoiseshell clip that Tia gave me years ago. I must have dropped it when that man grabbed my wrist. I stare at it. I had not even realized it was gone. I reach out and take it. My fingers graze his palm. His skin is warm against the damp morning air. Thank you. My voice is clipped. He will not bother you again. He says, it is a flat statement of fact. Was that you, the lilies? They are lilies, he says, ignoring the accusation. It was too much. You should not have sent them to my home. He watches me, his gaze analytical. Do not let them teach you your value. Lila, Garen, men like that, they only understand leverage. And you? What do you understand? A small, humorless smile touches his lips. That you are waiting for a bus at 5 in the morning. I am not. He nods to the passenger door. Get in. I will take you where you are going. I do not take rides from strangers. I am your most reliable customer. We sit in silence for a moment, the tension stretching. I was a sailor once, he says, his gaze shifting to the harbor beyond the buildings. On Isola Vesper, an orphan, the sea is a hard master, but it is a fair one. Men are not. He speaks briefly of logistics, of building a transport network from nothing. He talks about legal routes and gray routes, the difference between what the law allows and what survival demands. As he speaks, my eyes catch movement in his side mirror. A black sedan, identical to his, is parked half a block down, its lights off. It does not belong in this neighborhood. Dario's eyes flick to the mirror. He saw it. His expression does not change, but the atmosphere inside the car goes rigid. He nods once, a silent command to his driver. Change the route. Take the coastal road. He turns back to me. The offer for the ride stands. I shake my head. The bus is coming. The window slides up. The sedan pulls away, disappearing into the pre-dawn darkness. The other sedan does not move. My pride is a luxury. The BVRT letter is a death sentence. When the Azure Key calls me 2 hours later, Garen's voice tight with fury, telling me Mr. Vescari has booked all 50 tables for the next 3 nights and is demanding my presence. I say yes. And I hate myself for it. I work those nights in a haze. The restaurant is empty except for Dario and his 2 shadows. He's polite, distant, and orders enough food for an army. The tips pile up. Garen watches me from the bar, his face a mask of pure loathing. The kitchen, meanwhile, is electric with rumors. The Metropolitan Commerce Authority is investigating the Azure Key. The whispers are about money laundering, about using inflated seafood invoices to wash cash for someone powerful. It is Garen, the head chef mutters to his sous chef, sharpening his knife. He's using the halibut orders to move the money. I freeze. I am the one who prints the final receipts. At the end of every shift, I run the master list, the final tally of every dish sold. I am touching the paper trail. On the 3rd night, near closing, I go to the kitchen to pick up a final dessert order. The printer chatters out a new ticket. I grab it. It is not in order. It is a list of codes. Garen's familiar. Sharp handwriting is next to several items: scallops, lobster, king crab. But then, a line item I have never seen before, circled in red ink. Blue mussels. Expedite =sign transfer. My blood turns to ice. This is it. This is the gray network. This is the system. I look at the ticket, at the simple, damning equation. My hand automatically goes to my apron, where my Minolta camera is tucked in my bag, hidden beneath my notepad. I always carry it. I pull it out, shielding it with my body. The kitchen is loud, chefs shouting, pans clanging. I check the light, I raise the camera. The click of the shutter is a small, sharp betrayal, lost in the chaos. I capture the image. I have the proof. I just do not know whose crime I have just documented. He's there again the next night, and the next. The 50 tables remain empty, hostages to his presence. But his behavior has changed. He no longer watches the storm. He watches the room. Dario orders simple food, grilled fish, salads, items that are quick to prepare. He eats, but his focus is elsewhere. I watch him track Garen's movements. I see his gaze follow the busboys, linger on the kitchen doors, and count the seconds a bartender takes to wipe the counter. His eyes sweep the ceiling, mapping the dome-shaped security cameras, noting their blind spots. He's not here for dinner. He's here for reconnaissance. He's hunting, and he is using my presence as his cover. On the third night of this strange siege, I feel a reckless impulse. The kitchen is quiet, bored. I take the cheap, flaky clams they usually reserve for the chowder and toast 2 slices of sourdough. I melt sharp provolone and add a dash of hot sauce. It is a clam melt, the kind of greasy, satisfying food the dock workers eat at 3 a.m. It is not Azure Key food. It is my food. I carry it out, my heart hammering. I set it in front of him. "You looked bored with the menu." His eyes lift, surprised. He looks at the sandwich. One of his men shifts, hand moving inside his jacket. Dario raises a hand, a slight gesture. He picks it up. He takes a bite. He chews slowly, thoughtfully. The scent of toasted cheese and brine cuts through the sterile air of the dining room. "It is risky," he says finally, his voice low, "but gently armored, just like you." The compliment lands like a weight. He sees me. He's analyzing me just as he analyzes the camera angles. An hour later, Garen corners me by the service station. His face is slick with sweat, his eyes darting. "Take this to table 27. He shoves a small, brown paper bag into my hand. It is heavy for its size. I look across the room. Table 27, like all the others, is empty. It sits in a dark corner near the emergency exit. "Garen, that table is empty. It is Mr. Viscari's booking." "Just do it," he hisses. "Someone is picking it up. Do not ask questions." My skin prickles. This is it. The blue mussels. I walk toward the dark table, the bag feeling like a hot coal in my palm. I know Dario is watching me. I know Garen is watching me. Halfway there, I see a busboy, new and nervous, carrying a tray stacked too high with glasses. I steer directly into his path. "Watch out!" I yell, a fraction of a second before we collide. The tray crashes. Glasses shatter, ice skitters across the floor. I let myself fall, twisting, ensuring the paper bag lands under me, shielded from view. "I'm so sorry," I gasp, scrambling on the floor, the shards of glass around my knees. "You idiot, Moreno!" Garen shouts, rushing over. "My ankle? I think I twisted it." I lie, buying myself seconds. Under the cover of the chaos, shielded by the overturned tray, my fingers tear the bag open. It is not food, it is a stack of plastic. Payment chips, like the kind used at high-stakes casinos, blank and sterile. Underneath them, a single sheet of paper, a list of code names next to container numbers. Neptune, Harpy, Cyclops. I shove them back in, crimp the bag shut. Garen hauls me to my feet. "You are paying for those glasses. Now get that bag to the table." I limp the rest of the way, my mind racing. I place the bag on the empty table. I turn to leave. The emergency exit door cracks open. A hand covered in a black glove snakes out, snags the bag, and vanishes. The door clicks shut. The next morning, I am at the docks, my camera a shield. I need the grit, the salt, the reality of the work. I am on Pier 5, photographing the tangle of old ropes when I see them. Two men, faces I recognize from the newspaper, known associates of Nico Adelanti. They are standing by a blue container, arguing with a man in a Port Authority uniform. A second man, thin and wearing a flat cap, walks up. It is the same man I saw Garen talking to at the bar. He hands over a brown paper bag, identical to mine. I raise my Minolta. The telephoto lens brings them close, too close. I capture the exchange, the handing over of the bag, the flash of the payment chips as one spills, the container number on the blue box. The man in the flat cap looks up. He sees the sun glint off my lens. He points. He shouts. I do not wait. I run. I duck behind a stack of lobster traps, my heart pounding, and vanish into the maze of the wharf. I am hiding in an alley 2 blocks from my apartment when a woman steps out of the shadows. She is tall, severe, wearing a functional trench coat. Her hair is pulled back in a tight, merciless bun. Lila Moreno, she says. It is not a question. I say nothing. My name is Inspector Verena Coast, Metropolitan Commerce Authority. She flashes a badge. It looks real. You are too close to the fire, Miss Moreno. You are serving a man under federal investigation, and you are frequenting areas of active criminal enterprise. Her voice is strange. It is flat, rehearsed, but with an underlying tremor, anger or fear. I am a waitress, and I am a photographer. I say, your hobbies are going to get you killed. She steps closer. The alley smells like old fish and rain. Garen Pike is a pawn. Nico Adelanti is a snake. Dario Viscari is a shark. And you are swimming between them. What do you want? Stay away. Stop taking pictures. Let us do our job. She sounds, I realize, like she is trying to warn me off, but also like she is testing me. There is an agenda here. She's not a clean cop. That night, I tell Dario, I have to. He's sitting at his usual table, the restaurant a silent, floodlit stage. Verena Coast, I say, placing his coffee down. She cornered me. Dario does not look surprised. He sips his coffee. Coast, yes, she's ambitious. She also reports to Commissioner Hart Vale. What does that mean? It means the MCA is compromised. Hart Vale has been on Nico Adelanti's payroll for a decade. Coast is not investigating me to find the truth. She is building a case to frame me. She is a tool. He looks at me, his eyes dark. Whatever she said, she is either lying or being fed a lie. It clicks. The pieces fall into place. Garen, I say, thinking aloud. He's running the money for Nico, but he is using your name. The Viscari Maritime Holdings booking. It is a cover. Yes. And every time I take an order for table 27, a container moves. He looks impressed. Which one? Lighthouse Holdings. It is a shell company. The name on the manifest matches the code names on the list I found in the bag. He is silent for a long time. He watches the rain. You are very good at your other job, Lila. I have photos, I say. The words are out before I can stop them. Of Nico's men at Pier 5, taking the drop. His gaze snaps to mine. It is sharp, intense, hungry. Show me. No, not here. I take a deep breath. This is my only move. I will give you a copy. I will give you everything I have in exchange. Tia Rosalinda. She needs to be safe. Not just protected. Safe. Away from this. I can do that, he says immediately. She will be moved tonight, Saint. Paloma Mercy. Private clinic. No one will find her. Good. He leans forward. And you will quit. After your shift tomorrow night, you will not return to the Azure Key. You are done. The old anger flares up, cold and sharp. No! He blinks, genuinely surprised. I'm offering you an exit. I'm offering you safety. You are offering me another cage, I say. You do not get to decide. Garen does not get to decide. I am not a pawn. I am in this, and I will finish it. I want to choose my own exit. His expression is unreadable. He stares at me, then nods, a slow, dangerous gesture of respect. My phone buzzes in my apron. I pull it out. A text from an unknown number. The message is short. Friday night is the transfer. If he shows up, he dies. If you show up, you take the fall. I look up. Verena Kost is standing across the street, under a broken street lamp, watching the restaurant, watching me. The following evening, the Azure Key remains dark. My phone is silent. Dario Vascari does not book the tables. The silence is, in its own way, louder and more threatening than his presence. On Thursday, a sleek black town car, different from his usual sedan, is waiting outside my apartment. It is not Dario. It is his driver, Santo Mirel, the man with the quiet eyes and the build of a retired boxer. He stands by the open door and hands me a thick, cream-colored envelope. My name is written on it in clean, sharp ink. "Mr. Vascari requests your company. 8 o'clock, Santo says." Inside is not a letter, but a heavy invitation. An evening of light and shadow, a reception at the Orpheum Glasshouse. "I'm not going to a party, man," I say. "It is not a party. It is a meeting," Santo replies, his expression unchanging. "In a public place, where he can talk to you without assumptions being made." He makes assumptions by inviting me. "He is establishing a new narrative," Santo says, as if reciting a report. "The one where you are not his waitress, but his guest. It gives you cover. Please, Miss Moreno." My friend Maya's closet smells like cedar and old perfume. She works in retail and has one good dress. It is gray-blue, the color of the harbor just before the sun rises. It fits, barely. When I look in the mirror, I see a girl playing dress-up. I see the frayed hem I tried to fix. I see the anxiety in my eyes. The Key Spire is the tallest building in Port Lorena, a needle of glass and steel that pierces the low clouds. The Orpheum Glasshouse is its crown, a massive botanical garden and event space on the roof. The elevator opens into a different world. It is humid. The air smells of damp earth, orchids, and the sharp, bright scent of citrus trees. Rain lashes against the glass ceiling hundreds of feet above the city. The sound a dull roar. The lights of the harbor below, a smear of distant color. He's waiting for me by a sculpture of bent steel. He's not in a tuxedo. He wears a dark, perfectly cut suit, but his shirt is black, the collar open. No tie. It is roguish, dangerous, and utterly out of place among the stiff, moneyed elite of the city. He looks at me, and his gaze is not appraising. It is warm. "Lila," he says, and the name sounds different here. "I feel like a fraud," I whisper, pulling at the sleeve of the borrowed dress. "Good," he replies, offering his arm. "Only frauds feel comfortable in rooms like this. You belong more than they do." A string quartet is playing in the corner. He leads me through the crowd, past tables of champagne and elaborate displays of food. He gets me a glass of water. "We needed to talk," he says, his voice low, pitched under the music, "and I needed to be seen with you. The narrative Garan and Nico are building the obsessive boss and the trapped waitress is a weakness. Tonight, we change it." The music shifts. It is a slow, classical piece. He sets his glass down. "May I have this dance?" I have not danced since my high school prom, but I let him lead me to the small, polished floor. He does not pull me close. His hand rests on the center of my back, a gesture of formal protection, not possession. His other hand holds mine lightly. We move. It is simple, just a slow rhythm. But I am acutely aware of his proximity, the heat of his palm, the way his eyes watch me. "You are a good dancer," I murmur. "I am a good sailor," he corrects. "I know how to balance in a storm." Across the room, I see it, a flash, quick and intrusive, a man with a long lens camera, pretending to be part of the event press, lowers his camera and melts back into the crowd. Dario sees him, too. His jaw tightens. "It has begun," he says. I know, instinctively, what the headline on the Port Lorena Wire, the city's most vicious gossip blog, will read tomorrow, The Dawn and the Waitress. You wanted this, I say, a flare of anger. I wanted to control it, he says. Now, stay close. We are standing near the bar when a waiter approaches. He's young, pale, and his uniform jacket is slightly too large. He offers a tray with 2 flutes of champagne. Compliments of the host, Mr. Vescari, the waiter says, his eyes shifting nervously. Dario is momentarily distracted, nodding at a city councilman who passes by. He reaches for one glass, I reach for the other. As my fingers brush the cool glass, I catch the scent. It is wrong. Champagne smells like yeast and fruit. This smells metallic. A faint, bitter, chemical tang, like burnt almonds. I have smelled it once before, in the back room of a photo lab, a developing chemical that had a warning label. Dario is raising the glass. No, I say, my voice is sharp. He stops. The waiter freezes. In one smooth, decisive motion, I take the glass from Dario's hand, I take my own glass from my other hand and press it into his. Then, I hold the waiter's gaze. I offer the drugged glass, my hand perfectly steady, back to the young man. You first, I say, my voice cold. Compliments of the host. The waiter's face collapses. His eyes dart left and right, looking for an escape. He sees Santo Mirel, Dario's guard, move to block the nearest exit. I cannot, the waiter stammers. Drink it. My voice does not waver. He does the only thing he can. He drops the tray. Champagne, glass, and poison shatter across the marble floor. He turns and shoves his way into the crowd. Another man, also in a waiter's uniform, grabs him, and they both vanish toward a service exit. The music has stopped. The room is silent. Everyone is staring. Dario looks at the broken glass. He looks at me. His face is pale, but his eyes are dark fire. He understands exactly what just happened. He raises his head, his voice not loud but carrying across the entire glass house with absolute, cold authority. Anyone, he says, who touches her on my territory loses a hand. It is a promise. The silence that follows is heavy, absolute. He takes my arm. We are leaving. He does not take me to the elevator. He leads me through a private door, up a narrow staircase, and into the atrium that houses the citrus trees. The rain is a deafening roar on the glass roof, sealing us in. The air is warm and damp. We are alone. I am shaking, the adrenaline, the fear. He takes off his suit jacket and drapes it over my shoulders. It is heavy and smells of wool and him. How did you know, he asks. It smelled wrong, like chemicals. He stands very close, not touching, just watching me. You saved my life, Lila. They work for Nico, I whisper. I know. He looks away, at the rain sliding down the glass. Your photographs, the ones on Key Shadow. I stiffen. How do you know about that? It is my business to know. I have been following that account for months. He turns back to me. I lose sleep over them. It is the last thing I expect to hear. Why? Because you see, you do not just look. You see the rust on the pylons. You see the fatigue in the welder's eyes on Pier 9. You see the things I have spent my whole life trying to protect. He takes a step closer. You see the truth. My voice cracks. I just want to feel seen, for who I am. I see you, Lila, he says. His voice is rough. I have seen you since you walked into that restaurant. He lifts his hand, his thumb grazing my cheekbone. His touch is warm, slightly rough. He's not asking. He's confirming. He leans down and his mouth finds mine. It is slow. It is warm. It is not the kiss of an owner or a boss or a gangster. It is the kiss of a man who has been waiting, starving. It tastes of the rain and the sharp scent of the orange blossoms around us. I do not pull away. My hands, of their own accord, find the lapels of his suit, holding on as if the storm outside might sweep me away. He deepens the kiss, his other hand moving to my back, pulling me gently against him, and I feel the solid, steady beat of his heart against my own. When we break apart, we're both breathing hard. The rain seems to have muffled the entire world. Dario, I whisper, the truth rising in my throat. I want to trust this. I want to trust you, but I am afraid. This world, the men with the poison, the threats. I am afraid of what it will make me. He does not let me go. He rests his forehead against mine. His eyes are closed. I'm not asking you to change your morals, Lila, he murmurs. I'm just asking you to stand in your own truth. My phone buzzes in the pocket of his jacket, the vibration sharp against my hip. The sound is an intrusion, a violation. I pull it out. A new text, an unknown number. Friday is the transfer night. If he goes, he's dead. If you go, you're framed. We did not go back to my apartment. Santo drove, the car cutting through the wet, neon-slick streets of Port Lorena, and took us to a place I had never seen, a private penthouse atop the old Harbor Crown building. It was a fortress of glass, silent save for the wind whistling at the corners. The adrenaline from the gala faded, leaving a cold, sharp clarity. We stood by the window, the entire city spread below us like a circuit board. I understand it now, I said, my voice quiet. I did not need my notebook. The pieces were locked in my mind. It is a system. Table 27 is not a table. It is a virtual hub in the accounting. It is the transfer point. Dario watched me, his expression unreadable in the dim light. He had not taken his eyes off me since the glass house. The order tickets, ties, I continued. The blue muscles code I photographed, that is the trigger. It authorizes a payment, but it is not a bank transfer. It is clean cash, run through the restaurant, converted into those payment chips. Gift cards, he said, his voice a low rumble. Untraceable. They are loaded with the washed money, and the chips are the redemption keys. Simple, efficient. And the code names on the list I found Neptune. Cyclops, they match the Lighthouse Holdings containers. The chips are delivered to Nico's men at the docks, and they use them to pay the corrupt port officials to move the containers. You are correct, he said. But they needed a scapegoat. I turned to face him. They needed a legitimate, high-volume business to mask the cash flow. Garin could not do it alone. His restaurant is too small. But then you arrived. He nodded, the realization hitting me with the force of a physical blow. The booking, I whispered. Vescari Maritime Holdings. You booking all 50 tables. You did it to protect me. But they used it. They used your own public display of power against you. Every dollar Garin launders. Every chip he moves. He is logging it against your account. He is framing you. The MCA is not investigating the Azure Key. They are investigating you. And Commissioner Hart Vale is making sure all the evidence points my way, Dario finished. He is Nico's man. Inside the MCA. He has been for years. Verena Cost is just the tool he is using to sign the warrant. She is being squeezed by internal oversight, which Vale controls. The sheer, suffocating complexity of it, the whole system was rotten. A new, cold fear gripped me. My aunt, Tia Rosalinda. He was already moving, dialing his phone. Santo, check on her, now. But I knew, before Santo's man ever got there, what was coming. The mail the next day confirmed it. I went home to check on my apartment to get Tia's things, and found the envelope slipped under my door. It was from the hospital, not a bill, it was a statement. Your outstanding balance, previously managed by the Benevolent Veterans Relief Trust, has been paid in full by an anonymous donation. I dropped the letter. My hands were shaking. This was not kindness. This was a hook. This was leverage. This was Nico Atalante, or Hart Vale, seeding my life with their charity, creating a link, a motive. When they arrested Dario, they would arrest me as his accomplice, and they would use this payment as proof that I was being rewarded for my cooperation. Dario called. She's fine. My man is outside her door, but they are watching her. They paid her bill, I said, my voice dead. Silence. Then, Lila, I am moving her. Tonight, to St. Paloma Mercy. It is the only way. I went back to the apartment to pack an overnight bag for Tia. The air felt wrong, stale. I kept feeling the crawl of eyes on my back. I grabbed her medications, her nightgown. I bent down to get her slippers from under the recliner. My fingers brushed against something that was not leather. It was cold, plastic, and small. A disc held in place with a strip of black electrical tape. A microphone. It had been there for days. They had heard everything. They had heard Tia's labored breathing. They had heard me cry over the BVRT letter. They had heard me talking to myself, practicing my lies. The rage that filled me was so cold it burned. This was my home. I ripped the bug from the chair, my hands trembling. I walked to the phone, picked up the receiver, and dialed the number Dario had given me. "Santo," I said, "get her out. Get her out right now." The transfer was clean. They used a private ambulance, and Tia, bless her, thought it was a luxury upgrade. She was installed in a private room at St. Paloma Mercy before midnight, with 2 of Dario's men disguised as orderlies outside her door. I went back to the Harbor Crown penthouse. I was no longer a waitress, I was a combatant. Dario was waiting, the roll of film I had given him in his hand. "They are expecting me tomorrow night," I said. I laid the small, dead microphone on the marble table between us. "They are expecting the frightened little waitress to deliver the package so they can arrest us both." "You are not going," he said. "Yes, I am. I am the only one who can." I looked at him, my resolve hardening. You cannot stop them by hiding. You cannot stop them with force. This is a game of paper and light, and I am the only one who holds the proof. I picked up my camera bag. They want a delivery. I will give them one. I pulled out a small, blank, white plastic card, a spare key from a hotel I had photographed once. I will make the drop. I will switch these chips for this. I reached back into the bag and pulled out a micro recorder, the size of my thumb. And I will tape this to the bottom of the tray. When Garen gives me the package, I will get his voice. When I make the drop, I will get theirs. They want evidence, I will give it to them. "Lila, this is too..." "It is my choice, Nande," I said, cutting him off. "It is my exit." He studied me for a long time, the silence stretching. "Tomorrow night," he said, "they will be expecting a quiet, private arrest." He picked up his phone. He dialed the Azure key. "Garen," he said, his voice smooth and cold. "This is Dario Vescari. I need all 50 tables. Tomorrow, 8 o'clock, a public reception. I am making it a stage." In his glass office at the key, Garen Pike's hand was shaking so badly he dropped the receiver. He fumbled, picking it up, his face pale. He immediately dialed another number. "Nico, he knows. He just booked the whole restaurant. The plan is leaking." Nico Adelante's voice was calm, bored. "Then proceed. We do not need a quiet arrest. We need a body, or we need the girl. Either one will suffice." I had to see the water before the end. I had to smell the salt. I left the penthouse and walked to the promenade, the wind whipping my hair. Verena Coste was waiting by the iron railing, staring into the black, churning water. "If you want to live, you will disappear," she said, not looking at me. She looked exhausted, broken. "I gave you the warning. They are not just building a case. They are closing a trap. Hartvale wants him gone. He wants a clean narrative. And me." "You are the narrative," or she said, finally turning to me, her eyes desperate. "You are the link, the courier, the girlfriend. You will be the star witness, or you will be the co-conspirator. Either way, your life is over." "I'm not running," I said. "Then you are a fool. I'm finishing this." Verena stared at me, a flash of something respect-pity in her eyes. "Then God help you." She walked away, disappearing into the fog. I stood alone. The sky over Port Lorena was a deep, sickly green. The wind was rising and the rain was beginning to fall, cold and hard. Above the Azure Quay, a flock of seagulls wheeled and screamed against the coming storm, their cries like a frantic, desperate warning. The Azure Quay is unrecognizable. It is not a restaurant. It is a fortress of witnesses. At 8 o'clock, all 50 tables are full. Dario did not invite his usual men. He invited the city, artists I recognized from the paper, sharp-tongued journalists from the Port Lorena Ledger, city council members, and dock foremen in their cleanest suits. He has created a public stage, and the air crackles with the performance. A jazz trio plays in the corner, the music a slow, sweet honey trap. I move through the tables, my borrowed dress replaced by my crisp black and white uniform. I am the eye of the storm. At 9:15, the kitchen door swings open. Garen Pike. His face is pale, his eyes glassy with a mixture of terror and resolve. He's not carrying a bag. He walks straight to me as I stand by the service station. "Table 27, he hisses. He does not put it on my tray. He slides a heavy stack of payment chips, bound by a thick black rubber band, directly into my hand. My micro recorder is already taped to the underside of my tray, switched on. The package. Now. My hand closes around the chips. They are cold, heavy. In my apron pocket, my other hand is already clutching the blank, white plastic card. I place the chip stack on my tray. I cover it with a clean, folded linen napkin. I turn. I take 3 steps into the dining room. The kitchen lights flicker once, twice. That is the signal. My hand darts under the napkin. My fingers are numb, but they obey. I pull the real chips off the tray, shoving them deep into my apron pocket. I drop the blank card onto the tray in their place. My hand emerges, empty, just as I pass the bar. The world ends. The power cuts, not just the lights, everything. The jazz music dies in a digitized squawk. The air conditioning whirs to a stop. For 3 full seconds, the restaurant is plunged into absolute, suffocating blackness. I hear a chair scrape on the floor, a rush of air past my left shoulder. A hand, practiced and swift, brushes my tray. The linen napkin lifts. The blank card is taken. The emergency generators kick in. The green exit signs glow. The main lights flicker back to life, buzzing, one by one. The napkin is still on my tray, slightly askew. The spot beneath it is empty. My heart is a fist in my throat, but my hands are steady. I reach into the folds of the napkin, my fingers finding the small, secondary recorder I placed there. I click it on, capturing the sudden, confused babble of the guests. He went left, Santo Mirel. Dario's guard is already on his feet, pointing to the emergency exit near table 27. He's on the pier. Santo and the other guard move, not like men, but like shadows. They burst through the exit door. I hear them running on the pier. The chase is on, out toward Beam Bridge number 3. A train whistle screams in the distance, a mournful sound. Steam from a portside vent gushes up, flooding the walkway, a perfect cover of white fog. The thief is gone. Garen is already on his phone. He's not hiding. He's shouting, a frantic, triumphant hysteria in his voice. Now do it now. The drop is made. Vescari's man has the package. He's cornered on the pier. Send them in. Catch him red-handed. The front doors of the Azure Key burst open. It is not Nico. It is the Metropolitan Commerce Authority. A dozen officers in blue, bulletproof vests, their faces grim. Verena Coast is at the front, her hand on her sidearm, her face a pale, strained mask. She holds up a warrant. Dario Vescari, she announces, her voice shaking but loud. You are under arrest for conspiracy, wire fraud, and money laundering. He has the chips on him, Garen screams, pointing, his face purple with exertion. The thief, the pickpocket. He passed them to Vescari in the dark. I saw it search him. The emergency exit by the pier crashes open again. This time it is Nico Adelant. He walks in, flanked by 2 of his men, a thin, cruel smile on his face. He brushes rainwater from his shoulders. A messy business. Inspector, he says, his voice casual. It seems you caught the shark, but you missed his little courier. He points at me. She's been running his packages for weeks, Nico says. She's the one who handles the drops. Dario moves so fast I barely see it. He's not an analyst. He's not a sailor. He's a predator. He grabs my arm and yanks me behind him, shielding me with his body. He raises his hands. Slowly, palms out. Santo, He calls out, his voice a sharp command. Stand down, no weapons in a civilian zone. Verena looks trapped. She has her warrant. She has her suspect. She gestures to two of her officers. Search him. The officers move in, patting Dario down. The room is silent. The jazz trio is huddled by their piano. One officer stops. He feels the inside breast pocket of Dario's suit. He reaches in. He pulls out a single, white, plastic card. The blank hotel key. The one the pickpocket stole from my tray. The one they planted on him in the dark. Verena takes the card from the officer. She stares at it. Her face is a storm of confusion. What is this? It is the evidence, Garen shrieks. The payment chips. Verena turns the card over in her gloved hand. It is blank. It has no mag strip. It has no value. It is nothing. She looks at Garen, her eyes narrowing. She looks at Commissioner Hart Vale, who has just appeared behind her, his face ashen. She looks at Dario, who is watching her, his expression calm, waiting. She knows she has been used. This warrant, Verena says, her voice dangerously quiet, calls for serialized, high-value payment chips. This is a piece of plastic. A scream, from outside, from the street. A crash of metal and glass. It is not the pier, it is the parking garage. Santo Mirel's voice crackles over an earpiece one of the officers is wearing. We have a secondary assault, black SUVs, armed men. They are in the garage. They are not MCA. Dario does not wait. He grabs my arm. We are leaving. He does not run to the front. He runs back. Through the kitchen, the chefs dive out of the way. A wave of white uniforms. He kicks the metal delivery door open. We burst out into the alley, the cold rain hitting us like a physical blow. The air smells of metal, old fish, and diesel. Santo is there, his sedan idling. The door open, he is clutching his left arm. Blood, dark and wet, seeps between his fingers. They hit the garage hard. Santo pants, his face pale. A different team. Nico's, they were not trying to stop us. They were aiming for the car. For her. He means me. I see them. Two men, black masks, tactical gear, running from the garage entrance. They spot us. They raise their weapons. I do not think. I react. My Minolta is in my apron. I rip it out. My hands are shaking, but my instincts are sharp. I raise the camera. The flash illuminates their faces, their illegal weapons. I snap. 1, 2, 3 pictures. They open fire. The sound is deafening in the narrow alley. Bullets spark off the brick above our heads. Go, Dario yells. He shoves me, hard, into the back of the armored sedan. Santo is already in the driver's seat, the engine screaming. Dario dives in after me, landing half on top of me as the car lurches forward, tires smoking on the wet pavement. He pulls me down, his arm heavy across my back, as the rear window shatters. We are at the Pomegranate. It is a safe house, a dark bar with no windows and one exit. Santo slumps against the bar, the adrenaline fading, his face gray. Sit, Dario commands. He rips open a heavy medical kit from behind the bar. Let me, I say, my voice surprising me with its steadiness. I grab the gauze and the antiseptic. Dario stands back, watching me. He has taken his jacket off. Santo's blood, from when he shoved us into the car, has smeared across the front of his black shirt. He looks exhausted. He looks human. The rain is still plastered in his hair, and in the dim bar light, I see the fatigue in his eyes. He looks at me, and his gaze is still gentle. My phone rings. It is not a text. It is a full, shrill, terrifying ring, an unknown number. I answer it. My hand is slick with Santo's blood. I hear breathing first, faint, shallow, and the low, automated hum of hospital equipment. Lila, a voice whispers. My blood turns to ice. Tia Rosalinda, I am here. Lila, she whispers again, her voice thin with terror. There is a man. He's in my room. The line goes dead. The penthouse at the Harbor Crown was a bubble of silence suspended above the storm. The wind howled, rattling the panoramic glass, but inside, The only sound was the steady hiss of the rain. The open kitchen was warm, a pool of soft, golden light in the vast, dark room. The city lights below were a fractured, bleeding watercolor. I was trembling. It was not the cold. It was the call, the deadline. Tia's voice, thin with fear, the image of a man in her hospital room. My blood felt like ice water, my limbs heavy and useless. Santo was gone, taken by 2 of Dario's men to a private doctor. We were alone. Dario stood in front of me. He had shed his blood-stained shirt and wore a soft, dark gray Henley that clung to his shoulders. He looked at my hands, which were clenched so tightly my knuckles were white. He did not speak. He simply reached out and put his hands on my shoulders. His grip was firm, grounding. The warmth from his skin soaked through my thin uniform. "They have her," I whispered. The words were suffocated, strangled. "He was in her room. Oh God, Dario, he was in her room." "No," he said. His voice was a low, absolute rumble. "They do not have her. They sent a man. They rattled her. It was a message, Lila, a warning, to break you, to make you run." But he was there. And my men were 2 seconds behind him. The man is gone, and she is secure. He pulled me closer, his grip gentle but insistent. "I am here." It was those 3 words that broke me. The terror, the adrenaline, the fight. It all shattered. A sob ripped from my chest, dry and painful. I sagged against him, my forehead pressing into the soft cotton of his shirt. I could feel the solid, steady thrum of his heartbeat beneath my ear. It was the only stable thing in the world. He just held me, one hand moving to the back of my head, his fingers tangling in my hair, the other hand firm on my back. He did not offer platitudes. He just offered his presence, an anchor in the flood. I cried out the fear, the rage, the exhaustion. He absorbed it all, his breath stirring my hair. When the sobs quieted, I did not pull away. I could not. I was still trembling. I tilted my head back to look at him. His eyes were dark, intense, and filled with a raw emotion that mirrored my own. He did not analyze. He did not plan. He just looked at me. His mouth found mine. It was not like the kiss in the glass house, which had been tentative and questioning. This was acclaiming. It was deep, desperate, and starved. His lips were an answer to the cold fear that had been lodged in my throat. I responded instantly, my hands moving from his chest to lock around his neck, pulling him down, my fingers digging into his skin. His hand slid from my back to my waist, then lower to the small of my back, fitting me against him. There was no space, no air, no thought, only this. He pulled me flush against the hard lines of his body, and I gasped into his mouth. He broke the kiss, but only for a second, his forehead resting against mine. Our breath mingled, hot and ragged. His eyes held mine. They were not asking for permission. They were asking for confirmation. "Are you here with me?" I did not hesitate. I did not think about Nico, or Hart Vale, or the MCA. I answered his unasked question by leaning in and capturing his lips myself. It was a choice, my choice. His response was immediate. He lifted me as if I weighed nothing, his mouth never leaving mine. We moved, a slow, unsteady drift toward the low sofa that faced the storm. Every step was a new discovery, his hands learning the shape of me through the thin fabric of my uniform. We sank onto the cushions, a tangle of limbs and breathless sighs. He paused, his gaze searching mine. A silent, final check. He would stop if I hesitated, if I showed a trace of fear. I gave him my answer. I threaded my fingers through his hair and pulled him down. I chose him. The rain hammered against the glass, a frantic drumbeat that matched my pulse. The world outside dissolved. There was only the warmth of the kitchen light, the scent of his skin, and the low, soft sound that escaped his throat. We lay tangled together on the sofa for a long time afterward. The storm, our only blanket, the adrenaline of the night had been burned away, leaving a quiet, vulnerable space. My cheek was on his chest, My hand splayed over the steady beat of his heart. I traced a thin, white line I found on his abdomen, just below his ribs. "This one is old," I whispered. He caught my hand, his fingers lacing with mine. 19, he said, his voice rough. "On Isola Vesper, I worked the trawlers. The foreman was skimming from the crew's pay. Families were going hungry. I called him on it." He paused. "He and his 2 cousins met me by the dry dock. They taught me that being right is not enough. You must have the power to enforce it." "Did you—" "They did not work the docks again," he said simply. He turned my hand over, his thumb brushing my palm. "You have them, too. On your hands." I looked at the faint, silvery lines on my knuckles. Not as dramatic. These are from the hospital. When Tia was first sick, I was a kid. I used to sleep in the visitor's chair, curled up. The springs were broken, and the metal wires would cut me in my sleep. I smiled, a small, sad gesture. I used to dream I was trapped in a cage of wire. I would wake up, and for a second, I would still be there. He was silent. He lifted my hand and pressed a soft, warm kiss to the scars. "No more cages. Lila." He sat up, pulling me with him. He was all purpose again, the predator's focus returning. He walked to a heavy steel safe concealed behind a panel of dark wood. He opened it. He did not take out a weapon or money. He took out a single, small silver key. He pressed it into my hand. "This is for a box at the city depository," he said. "If I fall, if they frame me, if I am arrested and I do not come back, you use this key. Inside is a letter. It explains everything. It gives you leverage. It will exonerate you. It will free you." I stared at the key. It was heavy. It was absolute trust. "Dario, I cannot—" "You must," he said. "You saved my life tonight. This ensures I do not ruin yours." I closed my hand around the key, the metal biting into my scarred palm. "You are not going to fall." "No," he agreed. "We are not." "We need a new plan," I said, my mind clicking back into focus. "The first one failed. They were ready for us. They were ready for a trap. They were not ready for a public execution." He began to pace. "They will move fast now. We have to move faster." I pulled the Minolta from my apron, which was still draped over a chair. I pulled out the film canister, the one with the pictures of the attackers in the alley. "This is proof of Nico's armed intent, but it is not enough. We need to tie him to Hart Vale." "Hart Vale is clean," Dario said. "He never touches the money. He just gives the orders." "He meets Garin," I insisted. "He has to. Garin is his connection to the restaurant. We just have not seen it." A plan began to form, built from shadows and light. "You have to book the tables again," I said. He stopped pacing. "What?" "Book all 50 tables. Tomorrow night, another reception. Hart Vale and Nico think the Azure Key is burned. They think I am broken. They will get careless. They will meet. Liso, they will be watching every... Not if I am not where they can see me." I looked up, past the kitchen, to the heavy wooden beams and the ornate, industrial chandeliers. "Garon is Garon. He smokes when he is nervous. He uses the side balcony. Hart Vale will meet him there, and I will photograph it." Dario's eyes followed my gaze. "You cannot be in the restaurant." "I will not be. I will be above it. I am going to rig my camera inside the chandelier that overlooks that balcony. I will have a remote trigger. I will get the shot." He looked at the roll of film in my hand. A slow, rare smile touched his lips. It transformed his face. "You see the things the law does not," he murmured. "You see the truth in the shadows." He nodded. "The decision made. Then I will create the space for that truth to be heard." His immediate priority was Tia. They will not get a second chance. He was on the phone, his voice sharp, issuing commands. "We are moving her. Now. Top floor of St. Paloma Mercy. The cardiac wing. And I want Citheron Care to do the transport. Use the critical ambulance. No siren, no lights. Citheron Care, a legitimate, high-end private ambulance service he owned. A fake transport. Completely legal. She would be a ghost." As he finished the call, His other phone, the one he kept for business, vibrated on the marble counter. It was a new email. His face darkened. "What is it?" I asked. He looked at me, his expression grim, the brief warmth gone, replaced by the cold steel of the shark. "It is from the MCA," he said. "Hartvale is not waiting. He's calling an emergency hearing. Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock. He has issued a summons for me." He held up the phone so I could see the screen. My name was on the second line. "And for you, Lila, as a person of interest and a co-conspirator." The summons is a declaration of war. Hartvale has set the execution time 10 o'clock tomorrow night at the Metropolitan Commerce Authority headquarters in Argent Square. We have less than 24 hours. Dario is preternaturally calm. He reads the summons, places it on the marble table, and looks at me. He wants a stage. We will give him one, just not the one he is expecting. He picks up the phone and dials the Azure key. I hear Garen's voice, thin and reedy on the speakerphone. "Azure key," Pike speaking. "Garen, Dario Vescari, I need the restaurant again tonight, all 50 tables." A choked sound. "Tonight, Mr. Vescari, that is impossible. We are not—" 8 o'clock. It is for a charity event, the Port Lorena Food Relief Gala. My foundation is sponsoring it. We will, of course, pay a premium for the inconvenience. Garen is trapped. He cannot refuse a high-profile, legitimate charity event, not with the MCA supposedly investigating the restaurant's finances. Yes, of course, a gala. It is a masterstroke. It forces Garen to be there. It forces the restaurant open. And it makes Nico's men hesitate to attack a room full of the city's elite. We move. There is no time for sleep. Santo Mirel, his arm in a clean, black sling beneath his suit, retrieves me at dawn. He gets me into the Azure key hours before the kitchen staff arrives. The restaurant is cold, smelling of stale wine and bleach. I climb a rickety service ladder, my camera bag heavy on my shoulder. The main chandelier above the smoking balcony is a mass of wrought iron and dusty crystal. It is the perfect blind spot. I wedge my Minolta deep inside the metalwork, checking the angle. It is aimed perfectly at the spot where Garen always stands. I attach the remote trigger, the wire thin and black, and snake it down the support chain. My second trap is smaller, a gray box the size of a deck of cards, a subsonic emitter. I hide it inside the casing of a Bose speaker mounted on the wall directly beneath the balcony. When I press the button, it will emit a frequency humans cannot hear, but one that will vibrate glass, metal, and nervous systems. It will make Garen's anxiety visible. Verena Coast finds me by the freight elevator as I am leaving. She looks like she has not slept in a week. Her eyes are shadowed, her skin pale. She shoves a file into my hand. "It is an internal warrant," she says, her voice a low rasp. "A pilot program, financial oversight. It gives you authorization to record video inside the restaurant tonight. It is thin as paper, but it is legal cover. If you get caught, it might save you." "You are helping me," I say, stunned. "I am stopping Hartvale," she corrects, her eyes sharp. "I'm saving my career. Do not trust me. Do not trust Vescari. Trust the evidence. Get the shot, Moreno." She turns to leave, then pauses, and stay alive. The city moves around us, a machine of interlocking, hostile gears. At 6 o'clock, while I am testing my remote trigger, Nico's team is already at Argent Square, disguised as court maintenance. They enter the empty hearing room. They work quickly, swapping the heavy oak chair at the head of the presiding commissioner's table for an identical one. This new chair has a device wired beneath the seat, a pressurized smoke charge. The plan is simple. Create chaos. In the confusion, an assassin's blade finds Dario. At 7 o'clock, Dario orchestrates his own theater. He invites a journalist from the Port Lorena Ledger to witness the uncrating of a Vescari Maritime Holdings container at Pier 9. The one Nico's men have been whispering is full of illegal arms. The heavy refrigerated doors hiss open. The container is filled with food, thousands of pounds of fresh produce, meat and cheese. For the gala, Dario says to the journalist, his face grim, to support the Port Lorena Food Relief Fund. The narrative Nico has been building. Dario the violent arms dealer evaporates. At 8 o'clock, the gala begins. Santo is unrecognizable. He's in the kitchen, wearing a crisp white chef's jacket, his sling gone, his arms strapped tightly to his chest. He introduces himself as Chef Anton, a replacement from the temp agency. He's silent, efficient. He watches Garen. Garen is a wreck. He's sweating, his hands visibly shaking long before I hit the switch. He keeps signing liquor invoices, his distinct, spiky, coded signature on every single one. Santo, with the smooth, practiced motion of a line cook grabbing a pan, slides the stack of real, coded receipts off Garen's desk and replaces it with a stack of identical, blank dummies. He has the paper trail. At 9:15, I'm in the small AV booth, my heart hammering. I am watching the security feed for the balcony. Garen bursts onto the balcony, fumbling for a cigarette. He is frantic. A moment later, Hartvale joins him. They think they are hidden. They think they are safe. I press the button for the subsonic emitter. On the monitor, Garen's hand, the one holding the cigarette, begins to vibrate violently. The cigarette ashes fall onto his shirt. He stares at his hand, confused, terrified, as if it is betraying him. Hartvale speaks, his face angry. Garen nods, his face pale. He reaches into his jacket, an envelope thick. He hands it to Hartvale. My thumb slams the remote trigger. From the speaker feed, I hear it, the faint, high-pitched click whir of the camera. Once, twice, 3 times. I have it, the bribe, the quid pro quo. Hartvale pockets the envelope. He turns and leaves Garen alone, trembling, on the balcony. We are in the parking garage at 9:45. We have the film. Santo has the receipts. We have 15 minutes to get to the hearing at Argent Square. Aris Valco is driving. The man who delivered the lilies, he seems calm, professional. Shortcut, he says, turning into the multi-level public garage adjoining the MCA building. My stomach drops. Dario, this is wrong. The black SUVs are there. They block the ramp. One in front, one behind. It is a perfect pincer. Nico's men, not MCA. They spill out, weapons raised, their faces covered. Dario does not reach for a gun. He looks at me. I am clutching my phone. Lila, he says, his voice urgent, your Key Shadow account, can you stream live now? I do not understand, but I obey. My fingers fly. I am live. Broadcasting. Point it at them, he orders. He shoves me down, but holds the phone up, angling it through the windshield. This is Dario Vascari, he shouts, his voice booming in the concrete garage. We are under armed attack in the Argent Square public garage, level 3. We are broadcasting live to the Port Lorena Citizen Channel. Nico Adelante is attempting to assassinate a witness. The gunmen freeze. They see the red live icon on my phone screen. They are exposed. This is not a silent assassination. This is a public spectacle. From the lead SUV, I see a hand slam the dashboard, a muffled shout, "Back, get back!" The SUVs reverse, tires screeching, and flee the garage. We are speeding away. Aries is driving, his face a mask of concentration. My phone buzzes, a text from Verena. Hartvale is destroying evidence. He just moved the hearing. 10 p.m. It is happening now. He wants a dark stage. He's moving, I tell Dario, my voice shaking. He knows we have something. He moved the hearing up. It is happening right now. Aries faster, Dario snaps. Get us to the front entrance. I look at Aries. I look at the route he is taking, and he is turning left, away from Argent Square. Aries, I say, my voice is cold, dead. He glances at me in the rearview mirror. The flowers, I say. The lilies. Santo did not deliver them. You did. Aries' eyes meet mine in the mirror. There is no surprise, only a cold, dead recognition. You knew my address, I whisper. Aries, Dario says, his voice is soft. It is the most dangerous sound I have ever heard. The shortcut in the garage, I continue, the pieces clicking together, sharp and painful. You drove us into the ambush. You were the only one who knew the route we were taking. You are the leak. Aries Valco, Dario's most trusted driver, the man who knew every safe house, the man who had been with him for 5 years, takes one hand off the wheel. He reaches inside his jacket. The town car did not slow down. Aries Valco did not reach for the gun inside his jacket. He yanked the steering wheel hard left, scraping the car against a concrete divider, cutting off the black sedan that Santo Morel was driving right behind us. He had separated us from our protection. The car screeched to a halt at the curb of Argent Square, the tires smoking. "We are late," Aries snapped, all business. He was out of the car, pulling Dario's door open. "Move, the hearing is waiting." It was a performance, a lie to get us inside, onto the killing floor. The hearing room was on the 19th floor. It was not a court, just a long mahogany table under cold, recessed lighting. It smelled of industrial carpet cleaner and fear. Commissioner Hart Vale sat at the head of the table, looking smug. Flanked by 2 stone-faced men from internal oversight, Verena Coast stood by the wall, near the windows, her arms crossed, her face pale. She looked trapped. "Mr. Vascari, Miss Moreno," Hart Vale said, his voice a smooth, satisfied purr. 10 o'clock, punctual. We have, in your absence, begun reviewing the preliminary findings." He tapped a stack of binders, each at least 3 inches thick. "And the evidence is, shall we say, damning." He began to read. He droned on, listing dates, shipping manifests, invoice numbers. It was the web of lies Verena had warned about. Every Blue Mussels order, every Table 27 transfer, every dollar Garon had washed. All of it, meticulously documented and filed under the name Vascari Maritime Holdings. It was a perfect frame, dense and suffocating. Dario stood with his hands clasped behind his back, his expression calm. He did not interrupt. He just listened. He was letting Hart Vale build his own gallows. I was not listening. I was watching the window. The rain had stopped, and the glass reflected the room. But through it, I could see the dark, glassy facade of the office tower across the street. I saw Aries Valco, down on the street. He was standing next to the town car, talking on his phone, pacing. He looked up, directly at the building opposite us. He lifted his hand to the car's window, tapping the unlock button. The headlights flashed. Once, twice, a pause, 3 times. My blood turned to ice. It was a signal. My eyes scanned the dark windows of the building across the street, 4th floor. A light that was not a light, a glint, a reflection that should not be there. A sniper's scope. Dario was standing directly in the line of fire. They were not trying to arrest him. They were here to execute him. "No," I whispered. I fumbled in my bag. Not the Minolta. The Minolta was in the chandelier, my other camera, the small, tough one I had used in the alley. It had a new roll of film. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. I raised it, not to the sniper, but to the reflection in our own window. I snapped a picture of Aries, 20 floors below. I caught the pattern of the flashing lights. "Hart Vale!" My voice was a scream. The room went silent. Dario looked at me, confused. "You are out of order, Miss Moreno," Hart Vale snapped. "He is in danger," I yelled, pointing not at the window, but at Dario. "There is a sniper across the street, Aries Valco. His driver, he is signaling him right now." "Seize her!" Hart Vale shouted, his composure breaking. "She is creating a diversion." Verena Coast moved. She was a flash of motion, but she did not move toward me. She drew her service weapon, a sleek, black semi-automatic, and jammed it hard into Dario's back. "Dario Vascari, you are under arrest," she barked, her voice pure, procedural steel. She shoved him, hard, away from the window, pushing him toward the solid, windowless interior wall. "Get on the floor now. Hands on your head." He understood. He did not resist. He dropped, shielding his head, giving her a target to control. She had just used the authority of her office to save his life. "Inspector, what is the meaning of this?" Hartvale sputtered, his face white, his plan collapsing. "He is a suspect in my custody. Commissioner." Verena snapped back, her gun trained on Dario, but her body blocking him from the window. "And you," she turned to me, "have just made a critical allegation. You had better have proof." "I do," I said, my voice shaking but finding its strength. "I have the audio tapes from Garin. I have the receipts, and I have the photographs." Hartvale's blood drained from his face. "What photographs?" I held up the small camera in my hand, the one with the second roll of film. "I have the photos of Ares signaling your sniper, and I have the ones from last night." "Seize that camera," Hartvale shrieked at his two oversight men. "It is illegal evidence." The men advanced on me. I did not move. I looked Hartvale dead in the eye. I let a small, cold smile touch my lips. "This camera," I said, holding it out to them. "Take it. This one only has the pictures of the driver, but the real film, the one that matters." "What are you talking about?" he hissed, motioning his men to stop. "The chandelier," I said. The bluff came to me, bright and sharp. "The big iron one at the Azure Quay, above the smoking balcony. I took the roll out an hour ago. It is hanging to dry. Commissioner, right now, in the kitchen, over the walk-in freezer, all those tiny, perfect negatives of you, of your face, of Garen's hand, of the envelope you put in your pocket." He stared at me. Pure, unadulterated panic. He was a creature of paper and bureaucracy. He knew nothing about photography. He just heard negatives and Azure Key and envelope. He knew I had him. It is a lie," he shouted, but his voice cracked. "Lock down this building. Stop her." It was too late. Nico's backup plan kicked in. The heavy oak chair at the head of the table, the one Hartvale had just leapt from, exploded. It was not a bomb. It was a thump, a pressurized smoke charge. Thick, oily, gray smoke boiled from beneath the table, instantly filling the room. It was not gas. It was cover. The fire alarms shrieked. Emergency strobes flashed, cutting the gray smoke into blinding, disorienting strobes of red light. "Lila!" Dario roared, his voice muffled. A hand, hard as a vice, clamped around my bicep. It was not Dario. Ares Valco. He had come up the service stairs. He had been waiting for the signal. He yanked me off my feet. "You are coming with me," he snarled, his voice tight with desperation. He was not trying to kill me. He was kidnapping me. I was his only way out. "No!" I screamed, slamming my free hand against his face. "Lila." Dario launched himself through the smoke. He was a blur, tackling Ares with the full force of his body. They smashed against the wall. Ares was expecting a fist. He was not expecting a brawler, but Ares was armed. He had a knife, a thin, glittering blade. He slashed a low, vicious arc. Dario twisted, trying to shield me, raising his left arm to block. The blade cut deep, a silent, brutal gash in his forearm. Dario did not even look at it. He did not make a sound. He used the momentum of the strike, pivoted on his heel, and drove his right fist straight into Ares' throat, a sickening, wet crunch. Ares gagged, his grip on my arm finally breaking, and he stumbled back, choking. The hearing room doors burst open. Santo Mirel, his face a mask of primal fury. His good arm raised. He saw Ares. He saw the knife. He did not shout. He did not wait. He lowered his shoulder and charged, a bull hitting a wall. He hit Ares, driving him backward out of the room into the stairwell. The heavy door slammed shut. I heard them tumbling. Two heavy bodies crashing down the concrete steps, the sound echoing up the shaft. The smoke was clearing. The fans had kicked in. Verena Coast stood over a cowering Hartvale. She was snapping handcuffs onto his wrists. "Commissioner Hartvale, you are under arrest for obstruction of an active investigation and conspiracy," she panted, her voice shaking with adrenaline. "You have no authority," he choked, the smoke burning his lungs. "You are finished. Coast." "I have a witness to your tampering," she yelled. But it was a fragile victory. The media was not here. The room was empty. Save for us, the sniper was gone. The evidence was not public. It was her word against his, and he was a commissioner. Dario was leaning against the wall, his left arm clamped in his right hand. Blood, a lot of blood. It was streaming through his fingers, soaking the sleeve of his dark suit, forming a bright red pool on the light gray carpet. Dario, I breathed, rushing to him. I grabbed a stack of useless, decorative linen napkins from the table and pressed them, hard against the wound. It is deep. We need... He put his good hand over mine, his grip surprisingly strong, pressing down, his face pale but his eyes blazing. "Do not let them define you," he ground out, his voice a low growl. "He is in cuffs, but he is not beaten. His lawyers will have him out in an hour." He looked from the blood on my hands to my eyes. "Finish this, Lila. End it with the truth." Down in the parking garage, Santo kicked the knife away. Aries was on the ground, his fight gone, sobbing. "Why?" Santo panted, his gun aimed at Aries' head. "He trusted you. You were his man." "My sister," Aries cried, his voice breaking. "Nico. He has my sister. He took her. He said he would kill her if I did not deliver Viscari." In the hearing room, I understood. Hart Vale would walk. He would claim procedural misconduct, an illegal arrest. He would have the Azure key sealed, scrubbed, burned. The real film, the negatives, the proof, they were still in my Minolta, tucked inside that dusty chandelier, 5 blocks away. The clock on the wall, its red digital numbers cutting through the last wisps of smoke, read 10:40. We were out of time. We did not wait for the elevator. We took the emergency stairs, all 19 flights. Dario was a solid, radiating heat beside me, his good hand on my back, pushing me forward. He was bleeding, a steady, dark trail, but he did not slow. We hit the lobby. Santo was waiting, his face grim. Aries Valco's unconscious form zip-tied and already in the back of a black van. "The Azure key," I panted, my lungs burning. "The film. It is still in the camera." "Go," Dario ordered Santo. "Lock the back. Cut the power from the alley box. No one gets in or out." It was 11:10 at night when we slid to a halt in the alley behind the restaurant. The lights were off. Santo was already at the breaker box, the metal door screeching open. He pulled the main, and the entire block went dark. Dario did not wait. He kicked the back door. It splintered. We were in. The kitchen was a graveyard of cold steel and shadows. We moved into the main dining room. It was pitch black, silent. "Lila," he said, his voice tight with pain. "I need light," I whispered. I fumbled for my phone, turning on the flashlight. "I need to climb." I stepped onto a chair, then hauled myself onto the polished surface of the main bar. The beam of my phone light cut through the dark, illuminating the massive iron chandelier. "Dario, I am right here," he said. His voice was directly below me. He braced my leg with his good arm, steadying me. "Go." I reached up, my fingers brushing the cold iron, searching. My hand closed around the solid body of my Minolta. I unstrapped it, my heart pounding. I had the camera. I had the film. "Good," I breathed. I turned, and the lights flashed on. All of them. The bar lights, the table lights, the chandeliers. The room was flooded, bright as an operating theater. And it was full. All 50 tables, every chair. It was not the city's elite. It was the docks. It was the welders, the longshoremen, the bartenders, the prep cooks, the old woman who sold newspapers on Pier 7, the young couple I photographed sleeping on the ferry, the entire community of the harbor, sitting in silence, watching us. In the back, I saw the team from the Port Lorena Ledger, their notepads open. Dario looked at the crowd. He was still holding my leg. He had not been surprised. "I made one more call," he said, his voice quiet. "For me?" He looked at the crowd. "Thank you for coming." I looked at the film in my hand. "Dario, it is just negatives. I have no way to show them." "We do." Verena Coase stepped out from the kitchen. She was not alone. She was with 2 stern-faced men in dark suits, and they were wheeling a cart. It held a high-intensity projector and a portable screen. I could not, by law, seize the evidence, Verena said, her voice clear and carrying. But as part of the restaurant's financial pilot program, I am authorized to test and review all on-site surveillance. She looked at me. Give it to me. The next 20 minutes were a blur. We turned the bar into a makeshift darkroom. The scent of acetic acid, sharp as vinegar, filled the air as I rapidly developed the film. The smells of the darkroom and the sea, chemicals and brine, fused. This was my element. Verena set up the projector. She fed the wet strips of negatives into the gate. She focused the lens. And she turned it on. The first image flashed onto the screen, a giant black and white negative. Garen and Hart Vale on the balcony. Hart Vale's hand blurred with motion, reaching. Image 1, Verena announced, her voice like a scalpel. Commissioner Hart Vale, in a non-sanctioned meeting with Garen Pike. The next image, the envelope passing between them. A gasp from the crowd. Image 2, Verena said, the transfer. The next Garen's coded signature on the receipts, pulled from Santo's pocket. The next Nico's men on Pier 5. The next Aries Valco, in the street, his hand on the car, the headlights flashing, a perfect damning pattern. The front doors of the Azure Key burst open. Nico Adelante stood there, his face a mask of thunderous rage, his men fanned out behind him. What is this circus? No one from the tables moved. Then, one by one, the dock workers stood up, the welders, the foremen, the men I had photographed. They did not have guns. They just stood. A solid wall of bodies, blocking the aisles. They turned, 50 men and women, to face Nico. They just watched him. Nico's men looked at the crowd. They looked at the journalists. They looked at their boss. They had no power here. The community had chosen. Nico's advantage, his shadows, his anonymity. It was all gone, burned away by the projector's light. He was just a man in an expensive suit, outnumbered and exposed. He took a step back, his eyes flashing with hatred, and vanished into the night. The evidence is clear, Verena said into the silence. The kitchen doors opened again, this time. It was the two men who had been with Verena. They wore pins, MCA, Internal Integrity Unit. They walked to Hart Vale, who was being held by Santo near the bar. Commissioner Hart Vale, the lead man said, you are suspended from duty pending a federal investigation. You are to surrender your badge and credentials. Verena walked over. She did not look at him. She just handed him the formal suspension notice in front of all 50 tables. Garen Pike made his move. He saw his chance, dashing from behind the bar, scrambling for the kitchen exit. He was met by his own staff, the prep cooks, the busboys, the hostess. They just stood there, arms crossed, blocking his path. They had seen the truth. They had seen his betrayal. He slumped against the wall, defeated. Aries Valco was on his knees by the front. My sister, he begged, looking at Dario. He has my sister. Dario walked over, his face pale from blood loss, his makeshift bandage soaked. He looked down at his driver. He did not speak for a moment, and then he nodded to one of his men. Find her, Dario said. Get her out. Take her to the Vescari Community Protection Office. She will have a job. She will be safe. He looked at Aries, his eyes cold. He will never use her against you again. The room was quiet. Then someone started to clap. It was the old woman from the pier. Soon, the whole room was applauding, not for Dario, for the truth. Amid the noise, Dario found me behind the bar. I was cleaning the chemicals, my hands shaking. He stood in front of me. He did not touch me. Not yet. He just looked at me, his gaze deep and searching. I could not buy your heart. Lila, he whispered, his voice so low only I could hear it. I could only be here until you wanted to give it. He reached out, his uninjured hand, and gently touched my cheek. His fingers were warm. Later, the restaurant was empty. The harbor lights were a spray of cold diamonds against the black sky. We stood on the roof, the salt wind whipping our hair. I had rebandaged his arm. It was clean, tight. He pulled me to him. His arms wrapped around my waist, his grip possessive but respectful. I pressed my hands flat against his chest, feeling his heart. He kissed me. It was not the desperate kiss of the penthouse or the questioning kiss of the glass house. It was a promise. It was deep, slow, and absolute. Our foreheads touched, our breath mingling, our hands clasped between us. The city, the danger, the entire world fell away, and there was only the wind and the sea and the solid, steady presence of him. The door to the rooftop clicked shut behind us, closing us off from the world. The Azure Key never reopened as a restaurant. Dario kept his word. It became the on-the-key kitchen, serving free, hot meals to the dock workers every Sunday night. I became the creative director for the Faces of the Key project. My photographs hung on the same walls that once held abstract, expensive art. I did not move into the penthouse. My small apartment was scrubbed clean. The locks changed, the security system state-of-the-art. It was my space. Dario came over on a Tuesday. He stood at my doorway, not crossing the threshold, a small, genuine smile on his face. "I will come over," I said, "on the days you invite me." He laughed, a low, warm sound. "I will see you tomorrow, then." The next morning, the neon sign of the Azure Key was dark, but the headline on the Port Lorena Ledger, on every newsstand in the city, was bright and clear. They cut the waitress's hours to 3 a week. The Mafia boss booked all 50 tables, and the city finally watched. Thank you so much for listening to our story. We would love to hear where you are listening from, so please drop a comment below to connect and share your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, Mafia Boss Stories, like this video, and give it an extra boost by hitting the hype button so this story can be heard by even more people.